Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I hope that you guys are having a good Shabbat. Mine is just getting started here, not too long ago. Actually, like 3 hours ago. Okay, so today's Torah portion is going to be called Shoftim, which means judges. And we're going to be reading from the Torah, and it's Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 18, through chapters 21, verse 9. You shall appoint judges and officers in all your towns that Yahuwah your God is giving you according to your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment. You shall not pervert justice. You shall not show partiality, and you shall not accept a bribe. For a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise, and subverts the cause of the righteous. Justice and only justice you shall follow, that you may live and inherit the land that Yahuwah your God is giving you. You shall not plant any tree as an Asherah beside the altar of Yahuwah your God that you shall make. And you shall not set up a pillar, which Yahuwah your God hates. You shall not sacrifice to Yahuwah your God an ox, or a sheep in which is a blemish, any defect whatever, for that is an abomination to Yahuwah your God. Okay, I'm gonna stop right here. So, a sheep, right? A lamb. So, the claim is in the New Testament that Jesus was the blemish-free lamb. But why? Jesus was beaten, bruised, pierced, crushed, whatever, according to the New Testament. But here it says, if it's going to be an acceptable sacrifice of any kind, it is without defect, without blemish. Right? Otherwise, it's considered an abomination. Do you guys not see this? The whole thing about the lamb is a lie. And we know that because Numbers 33 tells us. What does it say? It tells us that these judgments that came on Passover were against the gods. Okay? It had nothing to do with the Son coming to atone you for your sins. Nothing. He specifically says it was about the gods. I was declaring judgment on Pharaoh's gods to show them up. You know, basically Yahuwah's like, I'm going to show you that I'm a badass. And you're nothing. So, okay. If there is found among you within any of your towns that Yahuwah your God is giving you, a man or woman who does what is evil in the sight of Yahuwah your God, in transgressing his covenant, and has gone and served other gods and worshipped them, right? Don't New Testament believers worship Jesus? Right? Like, you serve Jesus, right? Doesn't the New Testament tell you to serve Jesus? Right? And serve one another? Yahuwah doesn't say that. And worship, right? Okay, can I continue? Or the sun or the moon, or any of the host of heaven, which I have forbidden. Ooh, look at that. Your host in heaven. Hosts. Who are the hosts? Who are Yahuwah's hosts? Right? Not Yahusha, Jesus, which Yahusha means Yah is salvation. So, I'm not sure. I'm not going to use that name anymore. It's just stupid. It just means Yah is salvation. And anybody want to use that, you're a moron. Because where does Yahuwah ever say that where does he say that his son's name is Yahusha? Where does he say that? He doesn't. Neither do his prophets. End of discussion. You want to argue with it? You're going against Yahuwah's words. You're going against the prophet's words. That's on you. You're the one who wants to take up that. So. Alright. And it is told you and you hear of it. Yeah, I'm gonna back up a little bit. Okay, of any of the host of heaven which I have forbidden, and it is told you and you hear of it, then you shall inquire diligently. And if it is true and certain that such an abomination has been done in Israel, then you shall bring out to your gates the man or woman who has done this evil thing, and you shall stone that man or woman to death with stones, on the evidence of 2 witnesses or of 3 witnesses. The one who is to die shall be put to death. A person shall not be put to death on the evidence of 1 witness. The hand of the witnesses shall be first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people, so you shall purge the evil from your midst. Okay. So, here it says that you are supposed to stone them if they did that. But the New Testament says that you're supposed to crucify them? Right? Like, Jesus was crucified for what? Because he claimed that he was the Son of God. When the Pharisees probably knew that Yahuwah never claimed that his son dies and comes to atone you for your sins. So naturally, they would dispose of him. And I know the Romans were infamous for their crucifixions. They got them from the Etruscans. So if you research the Etruscans, you can see that. Okay, so continuing on. If any case arises requiring a decision between one kind of homicide and another, one kind of legal right and another, or one kind of assault and another, any case within your towns that is too difficult for you, then you shall arise and go up to the place that Yahuwah your God will choose. And you shall come to the Levitical priests and to the judge who is in office in those days, and you shall consult them, and they shall declare to you the decision. Then you shall do according to what they declare to you from that place that Yahuwah will choose. And you shall be careful to do according to all that they direct you, according to instructions that they give you, and according to the decision which they pronounce to you. You shall do. You shall not turn aside from the verdict that they declare to you, either to the right hand or to the left. The man who acts presumptuously by not obeying the priest who stands to minister there before Yahuwah your God, or the judge, that man shall die. So you shall purge the evil from Israel, and all the people shall hear and fear and not act presumptuously again. This is interesting because I honestly think that just by reading this, the man who acts presumptuously by not obeying the priest. Okay, so the priest always stood along the king, right? And we know that in scripture that Solomon is the branch of David, because David is the stump of Jesse. So, but what just popped in my head right now was that Solomon led so many astray. And I don't know what Yahuwah's plan is for Solomon, but I don't think it's a good one because of this. Because of where we are in so much idolatry, because of him and his lust for his 700 wives or concubines or whatever. Okay? So I think that maybe Joshua, because Joshua was a priest. Remember, he was the one who led, him and Caleb led the Israelites out up into the wilderness. So it's interesting that maybe Joshua will be, risen up with David. Since they both carried out what they were supposed to do in their life. I mean, they may have had hiccups and everything, but they're just the perfect example of a human. So, that was after Yahuwah's heart. We're told that in the Psalms by David. Okay. Where do we go? Okay. Demand you and all. Okay. We read that right. Okay. When you come to the land that Yahuwah your God is giving you, and you possess it and dwell in it, and then say, I will set a king over me, like all the nations that are around me. You may indeed set a king over you, whom Yahuwah your God will choose. One from among your brothers you shall set as king over you. You may not put a foreigner over you, who is not your brother. Only he must not acquire many horses for himself or cause the people to return to Egypt in order to acquire many horses. Since Yahuwah has said to you, you shall never return that way again. And he shall not acquire many wives for himself. Lest his heart turn away. Nor shall he acquire for himself excessive silver and gold. Okay, so when you read this, when I read this, I immediately thought about Solomon. Because that's exactly what Solomon did. And Yahuwah's like, don't do that, But I know that this was way before Solomon's time. But it's just interesting how that actually happens further on down the line. And we are able to recall this in the actual Torah. And when he sits on the throne of his kingdom, he shall write for himself in a book a copy of this law, approved by the Levitical priests, and it shall be with him, and he shall read in it all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear Yahuwah his God by keeping all the words of this law and these statutes and doing them, that his heart may not be lifted up above his brothers, and that he may not turn aside from the commandment, either to the right hand or to the left, so that he may continue long in his kingdom, he and his children in Israel. The Levitical priests, all the tribe of Levi, shall have no portion or inheritance with Israel. They shall eat Yahuwah's food offerings as their inheritance. They shall have no inheritance among their brothers. Yahuwah is their inheritance, as he promised them. And this shall be the priest due from the people, from those offering a sacrifice, whether an ox or a sheep. Whether an ox or a sheep, they shall give to the priest the shoulder and the 2 cheeks and the stomach. The first fruits of your grain, of your wine, and of your oil, and the first fleece of your sheep, you shall give him. For Yahuwah your God has chosen him out of all your tribes to stand and minister in the name of Yahuwah. In the name of Yahuwah. Him and his sons for all time. And if a Levite comes from any of your towns out of all Israel, where he lives, and he may come where he desires, to the place that Yahuwah will choose, and ministers in the name of Yahuwah his God, like all his fellow Levites who stand to minister there before Yahuwah. Then he may have equal portion to eat, besides what he receives from the sale of his patrimony. Okay, this is interesting, okay, because it says right here that we read like 3 times already. It says, and ministers in the name of Yahuwah. Whereas the New Testament says, no, you do it in my name. Jesus says you do it in my name because I'm through the Father. But where does Yahuwah ever say that? He doesn't. We're hearing in my name, in his name, nobody else's name. The only time we ever read about somebody doing anything in Yahuwah's name is the dark prophets when they're trying to deliver their message. And Jeremiah is told to go and make his scribe write on this paper or this scroll and give it to Jehoiakim, King Jehoiakim, to tell him about what these dark prophets are doing. Because Yahuwah reveals it to Jeremiah what's going on. And he instructs him to go to the king. And he goes, and what does Jehoiakim do? He burns the letter, or he burns the scroll. That was the warning about these dark prophets with a new message. Get it? A new message. Like what kind of new message? Like a good news message? Like a gospel message? What do you think? It's not hard to put the pieces together. Because Jeremiah is so clear about it. You just have to have eyes to see it. Instead of looking through glasses where all you see is Jesus because of what you've been indoctrinated into. If you had never ever been to a church or never ever read the New Testament, and you picked up the Old Testament and you started reading it from the beginning, you get a whole different picture. And then you're like, wait a minute, that's not what God says. That's not what that book says. That says something completely different. I know, because I've had people come to me and be like, yeah, that doesn't say the same thing. So you guys need to wake up and get out of this church Babylon system. Yahuwah says, come out of her, my people. Come out of the system. Come out of Babylon. She's a whore. Everything with it. Her church. Right? Stupid. Okay. So it says, and if a Levite comes from any of your town and out of Israel where he lives, and he may come when he desires to the place that Yahuwah will choose, and ministers in the name of Yahuwah his God, like all his fellow Levites who stand to minister there before Yahuwah. Then he may have equal portions to eat, besides what he receives from the sale of his patrimony. When you come into the land that Yahuwah your God is giving you, you shall not learn to follow the abominable practices of those nations. These shall not be found among you. Anyone who burns his son or his daughter as an offering, anyone who practices divination, or tells fortunes, or interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or a charmer, or a medium, or a necromancer, or one who inquires of the dead. For whoever does these things is an abomination to Yahuwah. And because of these abominations, Yahuwah your God is driving them out before you. You shall be blameless before Yahuwah your God, for these nations which you are about to dispossess listen to fortune tellers and to diviners. But as for you, Yahuwah your God has not allowed you to do this. Okay. You're not to burn your son or your daughter as an offering. Okay. Do you think that it's just burning them or just sacrificing them? Because Yahuwah said that he's completely against human sacrifice. Okay? A sacrifice is a sacrifice whether you burn somebody or you hang them on a tree. You're still sacrificing him. And he says specifically, don't burn your son or your daughter. Now, does that make any sense to you? The New Testament says that Yahuwah supposedly sent his son to die, to be a sacrifice, when here he is specifically saying, don't do that? Why would he contradict his word? Who's wrong here? Who's wrong here? Well, every man should be a liar and let Yahuwah be truth only. Right? So you believe what? The Tanakh. You believe the Torah, Yahuwah's words. You believe the Haftorah, because Amos 3:7 tells us that his prophets will know what he will do in the past as well as in the future. Right? So where does this new book come in? Because the only place I read, like we discussed, was in that new message that the dark prophets were bringing. And it was prophecies in Baal. And Baal, right? What? We got Baal, Mithrais, right? Right? Mithraism, right? Baptism comes from Mithrais. Okay? However you want to see it. You go research it if you want to call me a liar. I really don't care, because when you research it, the joke's going to be on you for sitting there saying that about me. Serious. Like, putting me down. I really don't care. I get a lot of mockery from people. And it's okay. Because once they have it in their minds, it's going to stay there. If they're curious to know truth. But if they don't and they just want to sideswipe it, more power to you guys. You just don't hear Yahuwah calling you. Nothing I can do about it. Alright. Yahuwah your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from your brothers. Okay? Okay. Now let's back up. He is talking to who right now? He's talking to the brothers, right? The brotherhood, the Levitical priesthood, brotherhood, right? Yeah, he's saying one will rise up from the priesthood. Okay? It is to him you shall listen, just as you desired of Yahuwah your God at Horeb, on the day of the assembly, when you said, let me not hear again the voice of Yahuwah my God, or see this great fire anymore, lest I die. Who was there? The Levitical priest. Yes, they were. And Yahuwah said to me, they are right in what they have spoken. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brothers, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. And whoever will not listen to my words that he shall speak in my name, in whose name? Yahuwah's name, I myself will require it of him. But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name that I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, like Jesus in disguise of Baal, that same prophet shall die. And if you say in your heart, how may we know the word that Yahuwah has not spoken? When a prophet speaks in the name of Yahuwah, if the word does not come to pass or come true, that it is a word that Yahuwah has not spoken, the prophet has spoken it presumptuously. You need not be afraid of him. When Yahuwah your God cuts off the nations whose land Yahuwah your God is giving you, and you dispossess them and dwell in their cities and in their houses, you shall set apart 3 cities for yourselves in the land that Yahuwah your God is giving you to possess. You shall measure the distances and divide into 3 parts the area of the land that Yahuwah your God gives you as a possession, so that any manslayer can flee to them. This is the provision for the manslayer, who by fleeing there may save his life. If anyone kills his neighbor unintentionally without having hated him in the past, as when someone goes into the forest with his neighbor to cut wood, and his hand swings the axe to cut down a tree, and the head slips from the handle and strikes his neighbor, so that man dies, he may flee to one of these cities and live, lest the avenger of blood in hot anger pursue the manslayer and overtake him, because the way is long, and strike him fatally. Though the man did not deserve to die, he said not hated his since he had not hated his neighbor in the past. Therefore I command you, you shall set apart 3 cities, and if Yahuwah your God enlarges your territory, as he has sworn to your fathers, and gives you all the land that he promised to give to your fathers, provided you are careful to keep all this commandment which I command you today, by loving Yahuwah your God, and by walking ever in his ways, not the New Testament's ways. Then you shall add 3 other cities to these 3, lest innocent blood be shed in your land that Yahuwah your God is giving you for an inheritance, and so the guilt of bloodshed be upon you. But if anyone hates his neighbor and lies in wait for him, and attacks him and strikes him fatally so that he dies, and he flees into one of these cities, then the elders of his city shall send and take him from there, and hand him over to the avenger of blood, so that he may die. Your eyes shall not pity him, but you shall purge the guilt of innocent blood from Israel, so that it may be well with you. We have strayed so far from that. I wonder who it was that said, nope, we're not going to do this no more. Biggest mistake ever. You shall not move your neighbor's landmark, which the men of old have set, in the inheritance that you will hold in the land that Yahuwah your God is giving you to possess. A single witness shall not suffice against a person for any crime or for any wrong in connection with any offense that he has committed. Only on the evidence of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall a charge be established. If a malicious witness arises to accuse a person of wrongdoing, then both parties to the dispute shall appear before Yahuwah, before the priests and the judges who are in office in those days. The judges shall inquire diligently, and if the witness is a false witness, and has accused his brother falsely, then you shall do to him as he had meant to do to his brother. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. And the rest shall hear and fear, and shall never again commit any such evil among you. Your eyes shall not pity. It shall be life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. When you go out to war against your enemies and see horses and chariots and an army larger than your own, you shall not be afraid of them, for Yahuwah your God is with you, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And when you draw near to the battle, the priest shall come forward and speak to Yahuwah. Speak to the people. And shall say to them, Hear, O Israel, today you are drawing near for battle against your enemies. Let not your heart faint. Oh, hold on a second.